in months sometimes. And each of these performers up here has been involved in a career for much more than a year or two. So there's been a slow, steady ascent, but it's presented its challenges, and that's sort of what we're going to talk about today. But I'd like to start off by asking them all a question about when they first decided this was what they wanted to do with their life. When did they pick this as the mission? Anthony Gerasi, anybody know Anthony, a piano player from the Boston area? I sat with Anthony and he said, when I was 4, I asked my parents I wanted a piano. I'm going, 4? You knew you wanted a piano? He said, yeah, that's because I knew that's what I wanted to do. The other night, Reverend Peyton up here talked about I've been a professional musician since I was 13. And I wonder, when did each of you decide? What was the moment? Do you know it when you sort of said, that's what I'm gonna do? I see Vanessa nodding, so I'll go right to you.
So for me, I was balancing a lot of things. I loved school, I loved dogs, so I thought I'd be a vet, and then I was playing basketball, and I loved playing basketball, and I loved to cook, so I loved all those things. But I think around my 7th or 8th grade year, I had met and started studying with this guy, Chris Vidala, and he was longtime saxophonist, woodwind artist with Chuck Mangione for 20 plus years, and became my mentor. And he was the first time that I saw that you could play saxophone for a living. And I was like, okay, that sounds like fun. So I continued to play basketball, but really just like music just became the thing. So it started, I chose it around 9 and then really chose it around 16.
Wow. I'm gonna go down to Ryan, because Ryan's gotta leave at what, about noon? Or a little early? 11:50, they're playing the Roof Caravans on the back deck. Mm-hmm. Ryan, when did being a musician sort of take over your life?
I remember just playing, for my friends and family and neighbors and things like that. My dad and my mom would bring me over next door. It's like, oh, look at my son, he can play, he can play some BB King, things like that. But for me personally is when I got my first semi-permanent gig, played every other weekend at a Mexican restaurant for 3 hours for $25. And when I got that first little $25, I got my first bank account, and that's when I knew, because the minimum wage in Mississippi is only $7 at the time. Yeah. And so $21 for 3 hours versus $25, I thought I was doing something.
How old were you then?
I was 12.
12.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's amazing, but being able to do this and just to see the smiles on everyone's face, me being a young person, I can have that effect on people through something I love to do. That was really it for me. It's something I really wanted to do for the rest of my life, as long as I can do it.
Yeah. Jontavious, we'll come down the aisle. You remember?
Yeah, I think I know I started playing music around when I was 9. I started on piano, then I went to trombone. I was bad at both of them. And then I started guitar when I was 14. And I started listening to a lot of deep blues stuff like that, early blues stuff around 12. And it was different because it reminded me of where I was from. It was the same, dialect. It was the people that looked just like the folks I knew. And it was like home. And then I started playing guitar and just fell in love with it, and other folks love it, they paid for it, so shoot, we still here, we still here.
Yeah, thank you. Marquise?
Well, I think I was in the 5th grade, and the teacher said, Marquise, no, I was in the 3rd grade. She said, Marquise, you always doing this air guitar motion. And she said, you want to perform at the Black History program? I said, yes, ma'am. And I come home, and my grandmama was sitting at the table. I said, grandmother, I'm in a little trouble, I need your help. She said, baby, what's wrong? I said, I told the teacher I know how to play the guitar, but I didn't. And my grandmama slapped me. And she said, what you lie to that woman for? She said, get out my face. So I go outside for about 30 minutes, and I can see the Pepsi sitting in the windowsill, the Filter King cool cigarette smoke coming out the window, and I said, she at least got to be thinking about it. About another 20 minutes go by and I can hear the guitar playing in the house. And I come in the house and my grandma was playing, I'm looking hard and I picked up on some things. And so around about 2001, I went to stay with my great uncle. And I had some skills, but we went over this lady house named Lucille. And Lucille would give me $40 or $50 every week. And that's when I knew that the girls at the school liked it when I was in 3rd grade. Lucille was giving me money by the time I was in the 6th and 7th grade. I said, well, this is enough for me. I don't need it. I knew then I was gonna be a blues man.
Yeah. And Mike, you remember?
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you. Especially with all these great, I would say, young artists, because I'm not. I've known Marquise, by the way, I don't know, since what, you were 13 or 14?
Yes.
Lighting up BB's downtown. We're both from St. Louis, so I'm super proud of everything he's doing. I grew up in South St. Louis. No one played music in my family. There was no instruments, and we were poor and lived in an apartment in a four apartment complex. And my parents were old, and they were much older, from like the 20s and 30s. I was kind of an accident. And there was no instruments in our house or anything. We listened to big band music, which I still like. But I heard some rock and roll guitar, something, about when I was about 8 years old, and it was distinctly a guitar, and I hadn't really ever heard that. So I remember asking my mother that I needed to have a guitar. And I don't know how they did it with no money, but I got a JCPenney Harmony guitar student pack, and no one knew how to play it or anything. So I just beat on it. It was just kind of they thought a toy. But there was luckily a music store in my neighborhood in South St. Louis called Tower Grove Music. It was only 3 blocks from my apartment, and it had been there since I was born. And I got a job there right out of high school when I was 18. I worked there for 10 years. And immediately, everyone that worked there was older, and they were all musicians. They worked at the music. One of the drummers that worked there played with Chuck Berry and with different groups around town. Another guy played acoustic guitar, in bars all over. And then all of the great musicians came in that town, and I realized, wow, these people aren't famous, but this is like their job. Like they were gigging. And I'm telling you, from the parents I had, I didn't know that was possible, And so immediately I said, well, if I don't have to work at a factory or the brewery and I could play this guitar, then I made it. That would be good enough. And kind of like Vanessa said, it's been in increments. So it started there, and I learned to play the instrument well enough, and I started playing gigs before I probably knew what I was doing, and learning on stage, playing with older people, and then of course being in St. Louis, fall in love with blues music, and with getting to see all these wonderful, great artists that we had playing at that time in the late 80s and early 90s that were alive and kicking, and it just kind of, kept growing. And all along the way I was told, listen, you cannot do this. You need to get a job. This is not going to work out. But I was bound and determined that even if I could just play in St. Louis and play on the weekends and work at this music store, that was way better than, working at the brewery. So it all started there, and it's still a disease today.
Thank you, everybody. Well, in the new issue with the story on Bobby Rush, I asked Bobby about all the jobs that by the way, Bobby just turned 88 yesterday. Happy birthday, Bobby Rush. Woo! I mean, the man's unbelievable. And he said to me, I was going to write until I found someone to write for me. I was going to book until I found someone to book me. I was going to manage myself until I found a manager. I was going to promote myself until I found a promoter. I was going to produce myself until I found a good producer. And then I thought about, oh, wait a minute, God put me out here. I might as well do everything. And that's sort of the next question I want to ask you all, that you are all accomplished musicians. But when you each decided to step out and, air quotes, sort of be the band leader, the one in control of your careers, what was the most surprising skill that you had to master that caught you that was like, like that question that just caught you by surprise?
I guess for myself, I really did. You know, I was telling Roger, I would look in the magazine and I would see the cruises and different festivals. So when I was able to get out from performing with Henry Townsend and Pine Top Perkins and Honey Boy Up, that was a big jump in my career. So I was always around these guys and everybody loved them, but it was until I really got out here and started being vocal, you know, about what was going on in the industry. And I thought everybody who loved the blues had loved black people. And then I found out in this business, very few people, even though, you know, they love the music, they just like Jontavious, Ryan, or Vanessa, and myself. But they may not necessarily like my cousin or my uncle. So that was the biggest thing that I had to deal with in this industry and learn how to cope with what people who have the purse string in this industry really don't like blackness but love the blues. And then they got a big part in this industry. When you're trying to be young and perform and come out and do your job, people will hinder you because they don't like what you're saying because it hits closer to home to them and you probably weren't even talking about them. So for me, that was a rude awakening to find out exactly how big this industry really was.
Yeah, absolutely. And any of you can jump in. When you discover something like that, and I'm guessing each one of you has, how do you overcome that challenge? Do you go at it with a sledgehammer into the wall, or do you try to work your way around it?
You know, it really depends on the situation. You know, me personally, one of the skills that was polished coming into this industry is code switching. You know, because on any given day, you know, I really like my little hoodie here, but you know, if I have my hoodie up and I'm walking down the street, you know, half the people here and half the people at the festivals wouldn't even give me, you know, a second look. Even worse, move across the street or wouldn't have anything to do with me. But as soon as I take my hood off, smile, have a higher voice, and then, you know, figure out, oh, he's got a guitar in his hand, then, you know, then they want to deal with you. You know, it was a very hard lesson to learn that, you know, not everybody that says that they're for you is actually there for you, or actually supports you, or just supports you from the outside. But you know, a lot of people, if you don't recognize me, I'm 6'5", 320 pounds. You know, not a lot of people are gonna just approach me just on regular days. Hey, how you doing? You know, are you having a good day? You know, so getting to the venues and actually, you know, first of all, establishing that you're an artist, not just a person there to be ignored, or just, you know, make sure you stay out of his way. You know, he looks scary. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's one of those things, code switching, just making sure that you're personable and making sure that you're approachable was really a lesson for me to learn, and I'm still working on that every day.
Thanks, guys. Vanessa, do you want to?
I think for me, there's another element as well, just being a woman in this business. We are another minority, and what I have come up against a lot is I always show up to a jam. I work my butt off, and I'm just trying to play, and I don't see myself as a woman first. I see myself as a musician, and I'm trying to be good at my craft, and I work on it hard every single day. I get after it, you know. I have a tenacity, and I know that. But a lot of people look at me and it's like, oh, it's the girl in the room. It's the tiny, petite woman, you know, she ain't nothing. And I've stood in the back of jams and been pushed to the corner, literally pushed to the corner by people. And that's like, you know, for me, I'm like, okay, cool. That says more about you than it does about me. Yeah. I'm gonna stand over here and still play the same thing that I would play right there. So that's just what it is. But you know, I think all of us probably would say the same thing: is you just do your job and you keep showing up and you keep just like powering through, because there are great people too. There are great people in this room right here that I have felt more support from and would support me through anything, and we're just trying to change the rest of the people that don't get it. just trying to change the point of view, you know?
Yeah. Can I just keep going with this? Have you found it to be changing in the last 10 years since, I know Jontavious, Marquise, Ryan, maybe Vanessa have been out there. Have you found that attitude changing? Or have you found it changing one way or the other? Okay, moving right along.
No, I think that's a good question.
I can take my cues.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I was lucky, like I said, in 2006, Henry Townsend, Honey Boy, they were just dragging me around performing, 2005, 2006. So I had my first child in 2006. I had my next child in 2008. So in that time, I'm trying to raise kids and myself, and I do look at the industry. I think internet, social media has helped out some of my younger brothers. I think when me and Ryan was probably coming along, you just didn't have, people just wasn't turned on so instantly. I wouldn't call it necessarily clickbait, but just people with their phones every day in their lives. So I think this has definitely helped the younger generation to be able to at least bypass the industry and go right to the people, because that has helped my career. I'm not the blues community, no. I do feel a part of the blues community, but I don't necessarily feel the love all the time from the people that's in the apparatus. But the internet has allowed me to be able to work with the National Council of Traditional Arts and just develop relationship with people when we go on Facebook, like me and my brother right here, Quan. We probably some of the first blues guys that took Facebook Live and was doing Facebook Live every day, every morning, every chance you get. So in that essence, I think the internet has saved the blues from itself, because they don't recognize young people. You see this is the only time you probably see all of us young people together at a blues festival. The next time you see our name, we be singled out. It'll be Vanessa be here at this festival, Quan will be at that festival, Ryan will be at that festival, Marquise will be at another festival, but we'll never be together to show what this looked like. So I think some things have changed.
Yeah. Mike?
I agree for sure.
Look, before you go, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Ryan Perry.
Yeah, Ryan.
I gotta play at the pool deck at 12:15, y'all.
Hey, Ryan.
I first played with Ryan and his I played with Ryan and his brother and sister, and didn't your dad make the guitars?
Yeah.
Made the
muffler
mufflers.
guitars.
I thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, like I said, Marquise and I both come from St. Louis, and obviously, I don't know what it's like to be black in St. Louis. I know what it's like to be white in St. Louis, and St. Louis is a very segregated city. That's just the way it is still, and it always has been. But we've known each other a long time. And, for me, now I'm not young. I was coming up in the early 80s, late 80s, early 90s. So we had a lot of great black blues artists in St. Louis, and really black performing clubs where, I wouldn't perform there. They wouldn't have me play there, not because they didn't like me. In fact, they were always very welcoming for me to come watch the artists, but there were so many great acts and performers that had been around so long, that's where they performed. And then there were places where I could go perform. But of course, I didn't want to play there because it was like rock clubs. But I was still playing rock and roll and trying to learn blues, So I kind of grew up in it was certainly not, no one was ever prejudiced towards me. But it was a learning process, I would go and watch these performers and just hope that someday I could play on that stage at that club or get to, talk with them. And I was very fortunate in that way to be in St. Louis. But what I did notice, like Marquise, is that maybe I couldn't perform in St. Louis, but I started to get out of St. Louis. You go to smaller towns around the Midwest, they didn't have all these great artists playing in town. So I could get a gig playing, in Cape Girardeau or Columbia or Evansville, Illinois, or, And so I just started to kind of move around and travel, and I started to find some artists that were doing that. And of course, I've had my own problems along the way, so I'll just tell you, you know, your original question was things that I learned. Once I got clean and sober and I started over again, you know, you got to have some business. You got to do what Vanessa said. Anybody that's, like Marquise just said, anyone that you're always going to see, you know, at the festivals, on the cruise, they have one thing in common. They've been doing it a long time. You know, there's a reason. There's a reason that B.B. King was the king of the blues. He was the greatest, and he'd been on the road forever. You know, he never stopped touring, never stopped playing shows, never stopped getting out there. And, you know, the internet was not there when I got started. So the thing I learned was to go show up and go play and go shake hands. And I don't know that that's gone away. But I think that, like Marquise says, the internet has helped to get to know more people a lot faster, you know. But still, you know, we got to show up and do the gigs and shake hands. And like you said, try to change people one at a time. The only way I've ever learned is to like Brian said, smile and shake hands and listen. And, you know, you can't change everybody, but this music has changed me for sure. And I hope that it's changed you, you know. And we need these young artists. We need more African American artists in this genre, you know, to be in the genre. And to me, it's exciting to see young people coming to it. And, you know, hopefully it's not as hard. It doesn't take as long. The internet will help. You know, you can make a record so easy today. You don't need a record label. But maybe you
So
need
why did you own a record label? No, I'm kidding.
well,
No, I'm
you
kidding.
don't need a record label, but at some point you need a team. Like Bobby Rush said. You know, you learn to do these things all on your own, but eventually you need somebody, you got to let other people be a part of your to make it bigger. And it just takes time and work, you know.
He says it's not clap-worthy. No, I'm kidding. The idea of the social media as a skill that you guys have discovered. You know, I know in our area, we have a friend of mine named Don Odell, who has a studio. He convinced his cable TV network to film blues performances, and he's been doing it for 15 years. Before that, he was Taj Mahal's private videographer, because we come from the same city that Taj is from, Springfield, Mass. And Don films these 1 hour shows and then gives the DVD to the performer and then posts it on Facebook and gets thousands of hits around the world. And I can tell you, Mike Zito has been in Don's studio, both as a solo performer and with Royal Southern Brotherhood. Ryan Perry at the end, they came in with homemade jams and did a 1 hour show. Listen to this. Vanessa Collier comes in within 3 or 4 months, 3 times. First time she comes in with her regular band. Second time she comes in with a Tedeschi Trucks kind of big band with horns, blows the roof off the place. Third time, she and Laura, this is all within a week now, between the Tedeschi Trucks. Third time she comes in with Laura Chavez and they do a 1 hour acoustic set. You know why she does that? So now she can get in touch with festivals and promoters and say, here are 3 ways that the Vanessa Collier Band can play your festival. This is the value you get when you get us. So I know for a fact that Don Odell, and that kind of free publicity, because he doesn't pay. This is simply grassroots. He pays nothing. But these performers and booking agents are now finding ways to route their bands through our studio on an off day so they can take advantage of this publicity. And people all around the world are seeing it. Can you talk a little bit, each of you, about your use? I know, Jontavious, you were a big mover in the Robert Johnson Challenge and other things.
Yeah, I was kind of late to the social media game altogether. I didn't start social media till I got in college. So I'm like 2014 when my first Facebook page ever. And so I got on there, and I had the mind to start it with music because I knew that what I wanted to do with my page. So I started putting stuff on there, and little by little, people would like it, people would share. You got folk coming from all around the world, and they keep coming, and now they're buying merchandise, and now they're showing the shows, and kind of built it from 2015 to now. The Robert Johnson Challenge that me and my bro and Kingfish started, they got like, I don't know, for acoustic blues sitting around, we got like over 1 million something views from it. We were just sitting and playing, good old Robert Johnson music, So I think it's been great to kind of like narrow down, the specific fan that you have that like, traditional music or whatever your genre of music is. So that's the way I've been using it, to keep in contact with my bros and to keep in contact with the fans.
And fans who might really appreciate an acoustic artist, but they live someplace where, your travel routing will never take you, and you get to meet them that way.
That's it.
What are the various platforms? I'm familiar with Facebook. I know nothing about Twitter. I don't know a hashtag from, hash browns. Well, I used that joke the other day. I can't do that. But TikTok, Instagram, is that all stuff that you guys know and use?
I use Instagram and Facebook, not much of TikTok, anything else, Twitter.
Yeah, TikTok's what my 12-year-old granddaughter does.
This is all out of my league.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do it at all. These young people, it's so wonderful to think that you could, get on the computer or you have a screen and you can broadcast yourself to the world. It's amazing. I don't know how to do it. I had to hire someone to help me do it, that knew how to do it. The pandemic kind of forced me to do it. And I realized, wow, everybody's got to jump on me. I don't know how to do this. It looks like shit when I turn my camera on. The quality is terrible. Look how fat my face is. I don't like it. The reason that I got into this is to get in a van and drive around the country sounded romantic. And I'll be honest, it still does to me. It's really all I want to do. I did my best during the pandemic, but I couldn't keep up with. I had to learn to do it because it's a necessity and it's a value. It's amazing, but there are people that have created quite careers for themselves just on the internet, and so for me, it's not appealing. I want to go. My dream when I was young was to play the Zoo Bar in Lincoln, Nebraska, because so did Albert King, and so did Coco Taylor, and so I still, when I drive to go play there, on a Tuesday night, I'm thrilled to walk in and get on the stage and play, and think I'm doing it. This is it, So that nothing beats that for me. But you've got to have this social media, certainly Facebook and Instagram. Like I said, I had to, before I had a record label and I just had to hire someone. I hired someone that knew how to do it, that would help. People go, boy, you're on Facebook all the time. Mike, you're doing really good. I go, am I? Oh, that's great. I'm getting my money's worth. I see you everywhere. Oh, do I look fat? So that's all.
Yeah, very cool. Let's move to recording and recording your music. Again, in the past, you had to knock on doors. Who knew who you were dealing with? Today, as Mike said, anybody can record something at home on their little laptops or Pro Tools or whatever else you guys use that I don't know about. What are the challenges today that recording gives you that you have to overcome?
I think today's a little bit different than later years because you had A&R men, you had so many people that had a direct, this is what this is, this is what it is. Now the lines are so blurred because everybody can put music out.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, but at the same time, it's a lot to consume at one time. And for the audience, a lot of people get confused with what, I hear so many people just use like the term, like, I love the music part of it, like it's in the history. So they say Delta blues, but they like the Delta is a region.
Right.
It's not necessarily a style. The Piedmont is a region, not necessarily a style. But with a lot of the ethnomusicologists and stuff that's been around, it's like scattered everywhere. So we just still just in it.
I think you and I were talking about your record the other day, and I think it was you who said, I want to make sure that I own my music. And now that's another whole issue, is the ownership of your music. Where is it? Where is the ownership of the stuff you did for Ruth, or the stuff, Marquise, that you did for Chad?
The sweet thing about Chad.
That's, by the way, Chad Kasem at, I forget what it's called. Blue Heaven. Blue Heaven, yeah.
Most people who deal with me business-wise, they know I'm very stern in what I want. So even when we recorded Man Child, and Here I Am, I signed a contract, my mother didn't. You get it? All right, I was 16 years old. So when I turned 18, 19 years old, I was like, hey, Chad, I want to talk to you about my record. And one of the things that we negotiated that after, he made his money back and all this stuff, that he would give me my record. So that was the first time. And then I started recording when I was 13 years old. Me and Mr. Sweet did a thing in St. Louis called the Mississippi Delta Blues Boys. And then, of course, I did another one in St. Louis called Rise Up Now. Then I went and tried to do it national. I went to APO. And then about a couple years ago, I was, 25, 26, and I decided I'm gonna try to do my very first self-release. And somebody I reached out to was on this stage, Mr. Mike Zito. And I called Zito, and we were going back and forth. I would tell him, I said, man, I got this idea and that idea. And he was always, I have to say this, every time I needed something really, and I reached out to him, he would do it. I was at BB one night and someone broke into my car. This man went in his pocket, give me $400, and it only cost $100 to replace the window. But Mike was like, Marquise, you need your ISRCs. You need to make sure you got your catalog together. Make sure you know how to operate a mechanical license and buying this stuff. You don't want to release something and then you're going to owe somebody some money when you get through. Yep. And that changed my recording career because then I knew how to set everything up. I already had my ASCAP and BMI, so now I'm taking this more and more serious. And you don't necessarily need a record label, but as Mike said, if you don't have a good team, you better have some good friends, and that's what you got to have.
Yeah, Vanessa, I know you've recorded for labels, and now you have your own label. You want to talk a little bit about
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I love chances to talk about this because there are great record labels. Mike seems to be one of them. I got it. I'm keeping this button. But, my experience was I came out of college and everyone at college said, man, you don't need a label anymore because there's so much in DIY. If you take care of mechanical licensing, you license your stuff with ASCAP or BMI, you try and get that placed, you try and work that music. If you own the rights to that, you see all of those income streams. Versus if you work with a label and that's also working on an older platform, you probably won't see that money. For me, the whole recording process with a record label was, I had an idea, I had a concept record, I was ready to go, and I was gonna put that record out either way. And I decided to sign with a company because they gave me good faith. And they said, we'll make the record that you wanna make, you can co-produce it, I've got this other producer, and I was like, cool, this is great. We get in there, things start changing. Oh, we don't have time to put keys on this. We don't have time to do this. We don't have time to do this. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna choose your artwork for you. And at that point, thankfully, I had not signed the record, and I was like, I'm getting a lawyer and negotiating my way out of this deal because I don't want to be run by by a record label that decides who I am as an artist, how I'm presented to you all. I want that choice. I don't want to be I'm a female saxophone player, look at me, sexy, like gotta put on nothing on the front of my record. If you want to do that as a woman, fine, that is your right. It's not me as a person. I want to stand on my own 2 feet, not what my body looks like. And so, you know, thank you.
Me too.
So, that's your right. So for me, I knew that was not the way to go. And I'm not saying that's every record label. I think there are great people out there, you know, and I just think you can do so much on your own. And again, I have a great team behind me. That is something I've built. But it didn't make sense to me that I ended up paying out of pocket for a record that was supposed to be paid for, to then get a record that I'm not happy with. And I have to go then tour and, you know, like sell. And now it's hard for me. I buy those records from the record label. It's hard. I mean, I can't get them. I haven't seen a royalty statement in 1.5 years. I haven't seen a single dime from that. But I know what I make on my other records, so I know there's money somewhere. You know what I mean? So it's just made me look at the business in a different way, where it's like, man, I gotta have people at every station of my team that I trust and that I know believes in me as an artist, and they wanna portray who I am, not who the business, you know, what in the business sells currently. I think you have to change that at some point. You can't just be, oh, well, I know this sells, so let's just keep going on this route until, you know, the money runs out. I think at some point you gotta get ahead of that. And I'm trying to be next gen, like, let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Michael, you can talk from both sides.
Great stuff. You know, everybody's right on the money. But again, I come from a different time, right? So there was no computers or anything. I rented a drum machine and a 4-track recorder from the music store every weekend, and then, you know, had it for 48 hours and tried to write and record songs on this little tape recorder that then you have to bounce down to another tape recorder to mix. And so I learned to do all that. But I was doing that in high school because I'll be honest, to be a recording artist, you have to be recording. And making records are the most important thing that I do and that we do. Making a record is what it's all about. Because, you know, I want to write songs, I want to record my music. And listen, not every record I've made is, you know, I don't always make the best record or this is the best thing I've ever done. To me, the opportunity to record and to get my music recorded is always a learning process for me. And that's kind of how I've learned my whole career is just do the best I can. That didn't work. Let me try this again. You know, I saw Joanna Connor in 1992 at Buddy Guy's Legends in Chicago, and I was, you know, blown away of this young woman playing slide guitar with this great band, and she had a CD. This is how old I am. She had a compact disc, and I bought it, and I looked on the back, and it said Rough, R-U-F, and I was like, what is this? How did you do this? Like, how did you make a CD? And was this record company? What is that record company? I thought there was only Warner Brothers or RCA or Atlantic. This is, you know, 1992. And then I found out, oh, there's Alligator Records. You know, there was Chess Records, Delmar Records, at the time there was Blind Pig Records, there's Malico. Like, what are these record labels? What is this? There's a whole other scene of record labels for jazz and blues and, you know, all of the subgenres. I'd had no idea. So I started to go out and seek all those out. So by the late 90s, in 1997, it became available that you could go to a studio and make a recording on VHS tapes called ADATs. And I made a record. That's the only thing that was important to me was if I could make this CD, because you could pay them to print the CDs, I could send it to Alligator, Blind Pig, roof. It's not rough, but I don't know. You know, you send it to these record labels, and maybe they would, you know, go, hey, this is pretty good, you know. So I made my first self-release CD in 1997, and we took them to the shows and sold them off the stage, and it started to pay for itself, and we ordered more, and I said, well, that's it. This is all I'm doing. And it's certainly not the greatest thing I ever did, but it didn't. I've heard worse shit. It was recorded. You know, I was like, well, I've heard something that's worse than that, you know? And so I did it again, you know, in 1999, and I just would save up money and then go pay somebody and record it and then save up some money and print the CDs. And I gotta be honest, I don't think I've been doing that for 23 years or so. And we always did well. And there was not really internet, you know, we'd go play shows and people would come up and $10 and here you go, and we'd sell CDs, and I like that. So when I finally did get an opportunity to have a recording contract, and you know, that was the goal for my age group, is to get a record label to sign you, to get one of the agencies to sign you. You know, I would court Rick Booth at Intrepid Artists in 2006, 2007. I would go play in Chicago, and I'd send cards to Blind Pig and to Bruce Siglauer, and I'd put $1 in this card, and I'd say, I'm playing at Kingston Mines. I give you $1 if you come see me play. And it, you know, it never works. I would just constantly do these things. Eventually, I found a label, a man named Randy Chortkoff, God rest his soul, who passed away, that owned Delta Group Music and Eclectic Group Music. And I kind of got him on the hook, and then I kind of got Intrepid Artists on the hook, and I lied to both of them. They said, if you could get a record deal, I'll sign you to the agency. And then the label said, if you can get signed to the agency, I'll give you a record deal. And I called them both up. I said, hey man, they're gonna give me a record deal if you sign me to the agency. I just lied to both of them. And then they called each other up and said, are you gonna do this thing? And somehow or another, the bullshit worked, and they decided to do it. And it was not everything I thought it would be. You know, it was a learning process of, you know, what I've learned over the years now is how much do you want to give away? Some people are not Vanessa Collier, okay? I'm going to say this. Most people are not Vanessa Collier, all right? They need someone to help them. They don't have a vision. They're not quite sure of what this record's going to sound like. Maybe they sing well and they play an instrument well and they're very soulful. Maybe they don't write songs. A lot of great artists don't write their own songs, you know. They need a producer, they need someone. So everyone has a particular need, and it just depends on what you're trying to do, you know. And I've been through some great record deals over the years, and I've learned so much from all of them. And some of them didn't pay me, and some of them did pay me, but I got something out of all of it. And what I got was I love making records. I know how to make a record now. I've made about 18 records since 1997. Some self-released, some on labels. The ones that I did on labels, I don't own. The label owns them. Maybe at some point the label will let me buy them. I've tried to buy back catalogs. Some of them went, you know, the way to the labels closed down and lawyers are involved, and you know, you just kind of move along and make another record and go sell that one. Because to me, it's people will ask, "What's your favorite record?" I said, just whatever one I do that gets me so I can do another one. Because all I want to do is record and make records, and of course, make a great record and have a vision and have a story. But recording is key to being played on the radio, to getting radio play. If you want to get nominated for an award, they don't nominate, you know, the best album if you don't have an album out. You gotta keep putting out records and keep being involved. And at this point now, you know, I have a record label, and the whole idea was to not do that. You know, to start a label that, to tell you the truth, is the worst way to start a record label in the whole world. Is to, to do 50-50 with the artist, let them own all their publishing. And, if they want to buy their records back after it's done, it's an awful way to make money. Because record labels are business. I realize these are not bad people that own these record labels. They're trying to make money too. And the money goes. Once you start the record label, everybody wants some money, and there's not any. So it's just a whole compromise situation. And you could do it yourself today, if you have the ability to do all of that work, but you have to hire your own publicist. You gotta have a publicist. You can't be your own publicist and compete with the rest of the market. You gotta hire a publicist. You gotta hire a radio promotion person. You don't have time to go drive around and send your music out and be the artist. At some point, you gotta hire these. So either you need to find a label that you trust or feel good enough, like this is a compromise is we're each equally unhappy 50%, right? So I'm willing, because they're gonna do this for me and I'm gonna give them this. And, it's like a marriage, you gotta find a way to make it work.
Good, thank you, yeah, wow. From both sides, thanks,
From
Mike.
both sides,
yeah. I was sort of thinking about like a pie and a percentage, and I was wondering, how much of your time, you can just think about this because we're running out of time, but how much of your daily time is spent thinking about promoting, recording, songwriting, the business, social media? And my guess is that the smallest part of the pie is going to be performing. And I would recommend to all of you, if you want to get into a musician's head about what touring is like, go buy, listen, or if you already own it, Jackson Browne's Running on Empty. That whole album just lays out being on the road and being on the bus. And he's got that one line in the loadout that says, the only time that seems too short is the time that we get to play. And I wonder if that resonates with you, with all the other things that you have to do. God, don't I wish I had more time to play and touch more of an audience. Is that fair to say?
No.
No. Whoops.
But a lot of us started doing 4-hour club gigs.
Oh, yeah.
And so you do 4-hour club gigs until you get a festival. Then you get a festival, and that may be an hour, 75 minutes, 90 minutes. But it was until I went on the road with, I went to Europe, of course. And you go to Europe, you're going to be spoiled. You come back home and try to perform. Mm-hmm. But when I went on the road with ZZ Top and Cheap Trick, 30 minutes, and I'm out the door. And I'm talking about I could give them people all of Marquise, the best of me in 30 minutes. Yeah. I didn't need that hour. Just the best that I had in 30 minutes. Then when I get back home, I said, damn, I'm going to BB's. We're going to play for 4 hours. At least.
That's right, you just opened for ZZ Top just at the start of the pandemic, and you toured with them. What a great opportunity that is, huh? Very cool, yeah. Okay, so that was not a good question then. I think we're just about out of time. Yeah, I've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. You talk a little bit about the responsibility you all feel to the audience and how that plays into what you do.
I feel like, especially with me, is to kind of, tell them what kind of person you are outside of your record, outside of what they see on social media. Because like we were talking about social media, I just post about my music, right? If you want to know me, you come. If you see me, like if me and Marquise, I know if it's 24 hours in a day, I had talked to Marquise about 5 or 6 hours, every day. So that's we'll talk on that level. And through my music as well, I got some songs and it resemble, who I am as a person. But I want to, let folks know who I am and where I'm from. And it's not just that I'm doing music just cause I love it. I gotta live by, eat it, drink it. I love it. So.
And I think you also, for myself, I come from a very old family. My grandma was born in 1932, but my mother was born in 72. Her father was born in 1912. So there was a dynamic there. And I always grew up around the original struggle of coming out of the South. And all I ever wanted to do was not make money from the blues. That came with the performing. But I wanted to project the lifestyle that was going on in North City, North County, and showing people what it was like to go inside of black households. As black people, my grandma used to say something all the time. She said, baby, we knew more about them white folks than they knew about themselves, because we had to raise the children, wash the floor, wash the clothes, attend to them. I said, but she said they never did know anything about what it was like inside our household. So that was my job, was to just try to let the audience know, well, you may have an idea of what it's like to be black, but now let's go a little bit deeper, and then let's not hold it at music. Let's have a conversation. Because if you do not have a conversation, and if you don't debate about these things, you're practically nobody. You just are living in a bubble. Soon your time will be up, and what have you done to really move humanity along? And so that's what I try to do with my blues and music.
Are you seeing a rise of more panels at blues events, festivals, IBC, BMAs? Are you seeing a rise of panels that are now talking about these issues? What? Go.
Marquise makes them happen.
Yeah, I remember a few years back you did a great panel with Bobby Rush down at Memphis, and it was needed. Yeah. That's right. Anyone else, Vanessa or Mike? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm happy to wait. Listen, nobody gets into the blues to be rich and famous. That's not what it's about. You love the music and you love the people. There's a quote on my arm from the great Luther Allison, and I got to read it right there. It says, "Leave your ego, play the music, love the people." This is this is roots music. It means you spend time together. I like that when you play on the festival, the cruise, that we hang out, that we become friends. It's not about, oh man, I'm not the best musician on this boat or anything, but if we become friends, people want to go see their friend. I'm going to go see my friend Mike, he's playing. They want to support you. They want to buy you music. They want to, to me, it's enjoyable that everywhere I go, I know people by name. I know their face. They come out to see us. That's what I like. My dad always told me, you should play country music, Mike, because you can make a lot of money. And I said, but Dad, we grew up in the city. Why would I? It don't even make sense. Why would I do that? I like, I like people. And I think that's part of what we do, Like everyone said, we're trying to humanize this. We want to show you who we are, let you see, our family, and write songs, about what we're going through, because you're going through it too.
Yep, that's right. Vanessa, take us home.
So I think Laura Chavez and I talk about this all the time. It's like, we each have one job. And to me, my job is not the band leader. It's not the songwriter. Those are things that I do. But my job is to make sure that you all leave feeling something. Feeling good, hopefully. But feeling like you've expended as much energy as we have on stage. And all those emotions that you feel, that's the journey we want to take you on every night. So my job is to make you all happy, to make a connection between all of you, which is why, like, if you see my show, I look at you in the eye. I'm delivering a lyric to you because that's what it's about, We are all here, and whether or not you play music or not, we can still have that conversation and that connection, and there's like a root of life that we all come from, and that's just what all of us are trying to tap into and like come together and feel, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm taking her on tour with me for my next panel discussion. No. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all.